made ROCCAT actually look significantly better.
Following up, of course, is the Elise ban. No surprises there, as it has been maintaining the high ban priority. And G2 actually decide not to take any chances and do not give Pridestalker the chance to lock Rengar.
And I think it's an interesting one that the Rengar gets banned here, because we've seen ROCCAT picking the Kha'Zix, and I actually think Kha'Zix is a little more consistent than the Rengar. Zac likely has to be taken away here, but then it leaves Cho'Gath available. You've got...
They left it open.
Leaving both of them to go through. Shen has been a decent pick up in the top lane. Expect hasn't been playing it through the summer split. Wonder whether that's something behind closed doors that we haven't seen too much from out of G2 specifically, but it's that so many power picks come through.
All right, so the Zac gets locked in for Trick, and now this has left open that Cho'Gath. Does it get picked here? Do ROCCAT decide to go in a completely different direction, though? A lot of fun hovers, but we don't talk about those.
No, I do kind of want to touch on the Braum that is available, and with Rakan and Thresh banned away, I think those are two big picks. But look, you've given the S-tier jungler over to Trick now. He should be able to have a mammoth performance on this Zac. Everybody that gets their hands on Zac tends to just take over the game completely.
Yeah, that could definitely be a thorn in ROCCAT's side as they locked the Gragas. They also followed up with the Kalista, emphasizing the AD carry. And on the other side, G2 locked their bottom lane. It's going to be a purple pair with Alistar and Tristana.
Alistar, Tristana, so looking for the tower push plus a little bit of front line and engage the later the game goes. I quite like this. Interestingly enough, the first time these two met each other was on the substitute lineup, and we actually had the Xayah Rakan come out for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
How the meta has changed from that, and we see more disengaged focus coming out from ROCCAT. A little bit more focused around kiting. With this Kalista, you've got the Morgana with a black shield, the Gragas ult to disengage away. Difficult playstyle to play against. You're up against the Zac and an Alistar. That's a significant amount of engage already.
And it's Zven and Mithy, too.
Yeah.
Like, it's not always just the champions, the guys who are piloting them. Well, they definitely are not shy on the aggression. Now it enters the ban phase 2. ROCCAT starts off by removing Syndra from the pool.
Yeah, Syndra taken away. Likely to see the Orianna go as well. Betsy is the one that's been played a lot of Syndra recently, so interested to see ROCCAT not opting for that as a first pick. Maybe you want to give Betsy the counter matchup.
Now the Gnar is banned out, and it's something that we've actually pinpointed as a champion that often gets left open, but both of these top laners do enjoy playing it.
Well, I think Gnar is actually one of the strongest top laners right now on 715 anyway. Once you get out of the ban phase especially, he does have bad matchups, but it's difficult to exploit, and he can do very well out in the side lane. The reason I talk about it so much is, as you said, Phaxi, typically the one that is playing the Gnar, but he's had it banned away so many times that rarely does he ever get his hands on it anymore, and that's why G2 have taken it away.
Yeah, it kind of sucks. Doesn't get to hop into the Phaxi taxi for this game, as now there is a Nasus ban. And Nasus did receive some buffs. We thought we might see it, but not this game.
Take into account the Nasus buffs, the armor shredding that comes through on his E, the cooldown on his Q reduced while you're ulting, can be a very frustrating champion. And now here's one that I wasn't actually expecting to see too much more of. Renekton coming out for Phaxi. I think Renekton has had so much of his emphasis reduced. Unless you actually camp him and get him so significantly ahead, a Jarvan might come out here for G2. Maybe even see something like a Cho'Gath that comes through. It hasn't been banned away. Like these matchups that can do okay and just survive the first 10 minutes of the game, and suddenly they're not in that much trouble.
Yeah, just survive it out. And speaking of surviving it out, G2 have blocked for the lane in the mid. It's going to be PerkZ going back on the Lucian. And they take the Rumble, so it looks like a fair amount of team fight here.
Yeah, and Rumble's another pick that I didn't even mention that can be played against Renekton. Not every top laner is playing Rumble at the moment, but it is certainly still very high priority pick. Again, you just weather the laning phase and then you play into the team fights. Interesting, the blind pick Lucian into the middle lane. I'm not the biggest fan of the Lucian. I think it actually hindered G2 when they were playing it back in the first 4 weeks of the split. But now we get to see G2 go back to the playstyle that actually started to fail them. You've got a Zac to gank for the Lucian in the middle lane. Should be able to have decent early setup here. Although there is a Taliyah on the other side that would indicate pushing and roaming, Lucian should be able to handle himself.
Yeah, I was surprised they didn't end up blocking the Orianna. They had a lot of tools to be able to use that with Alistar, Zac. It would have been a great combo, but instead they decide to go for the safety, make sure that ROCCAT can't pull off any shenanigans. Remember, few teams are as dangerous against top teams as ROCCAT, and also when they got nothing to lose.
Very true. Very true. Like, ROCCAT play very well against the strength of their opponents is one of the things that we say from time to time, because they just end up having a better early game when they play up against the likes of Fnatic or G2. I want to see it come through as well. Although a lot of people will look at this and say, hey, G2 have gone very heavy into the AD, looking at mid and, of course, their AD carry role. I want to see expect carry from Rumble in this top lane at the same time. We'll see if they can mitigate the early game play out of ROCCAT. And the last time these two teams met on the Rift, it was all the way back at the very beginning of the summer split. And there was a sub-squad on the side of G2 Esports. ROCCAT couldn't overcome that. Well, the Kingslayers, they might have fallen off the horse this split, but they just might be able to play Kingmaker. If they can take out G2 Esports, they put Fnatic in the #1 spot for sure. We will find out as we load up onto Summoner's Rift for game #1. Important series for G2 to stamp their temporary ability to get rank 1. Of course, it is determined by our second series of the day. If Fnatic is successful there, it would lock G2 out anyway, but still, G2, their fate is still somewhat in their own hands here, and as we group together in the early game, we're not actually going to see much action, but teams passing in the night. And whatever Zven is trying to do. A little bit of fun in this game, of course. In Week 10, not every single game will have playoff implications, but for G2, it certainly does. And everybody's going to have a dance party in the middle. Yeah, and mid lane is where so much of this is going to be dictated. You see PerkZ on this attempted to push Lucian, try and get the early game control, and then try and move. What? Oh. It's not going to Wadid wins the early game. But I want to see what Betsy does around the level 6 mark with the first Weaver's Wall. Get out of the lane, see if they can go down to the bottom lane for Hjarnan or towards the top lane. I think that is the difficulty that I have with this draft out of ROCCAT is I feel like you have tools to enable both top and bottom lane, but not both at the same time. And I think that is the danger here, is the Renekton. We've seen that Renekton can end up falling off. We've also seen that if you don't give emphasis over to Hjarnan and Wadid, bot lane like Zven and Mithy are going to start taking control once they weather the early laning phase. I expect Hjarnan and Wadid to take over for the first 10 minutes of this game. All right, well, we'll see if that prediction comes through, but I guess the question then becomes, where does Pridestalker need to go and focus his early attention before Betsy can start getting those roams out to assist him? I feel like topside is a likely place for that, as we see the trade. So when Zven in this bottom lane has that bomb available, he'll just throw it onto Wadid or Hjarnan if he can. In a cannon wave, normally you'll put it on the cannon to try and push the lane. But the problem is, Morgana has so much binding, the damage, the shield that comes through, that Zven, in prolonged trades, once that explosive charge is gone, actually will end up losing these exchanges. And he's going to rely on some of the heals coming out of Mithy's passive to try and weather that early phase. Yeah, and he's mindful of that potential as well, because you see he's gone for the Doran shield start, wants to make sure he can sustain through a lot of it. Of course, we used to see this always on AD carries for some time, but there were a few changes, meaning you can't quite buy the same amount of potions as you could before to couple up with that shield. So Zven's playing it out very safe. It seems like that's the whole strategy for G2, though, is it's all about lane survival, because they know they have better macro in the later stages of the game. Yeah, very rarely do you pick Alistar and go, we're going to win the lane! We're going to just go aggressive and kill everybody. I have had some supports queue with me that have had that mentality. I'm pretty sure Mithy doesn't have that mentality now. He's a little bit more forward-thinking. They know their place in this game. It will be a lot more reliant later on in the game. Up to this top lane, you can see Phaxi will have the ability to push and expect for now. As this game goes later, he will be in more danger. He has placed a ward already because he's watching out to see where the trick comes to the top side. He cannot afford to get ganked and die early, otherwise they lose all pressure on the top side of the map. Yeah, I mean, he could get lane ganked too. I mean, one of the reasons that Zach is so consistently banned and considered to be such a strong jungler is that he can close those distances so fast and from so far away. You just don't expect it happening. Now, Betsy, he goes for an early roam, pops the Scryer's Bloom to make sure that there is no jungler in the bottom side, which tells ROCCAT, of course, that he's likely up to the top. Trick is looking for it. There's a hopping. He's got one Guon, pulls him back in towards the minion, and it is going to be barbecue. Phaxi's still going to be able to make his escape. He's got a level advantage over expect and not enough damage to finish off the Croc. If that is your idea of barbecue, Devin, I don't want to come around for a barbecue because that was really lackluster. Now, that's not Trick's fault, of course. Phaxi playing around it well. Phaxi was able to move back away from everything, and although the stretching strike hit, it's fine. Trading in the middle lane. Yeah, Betsy, he's got no fear right now, but he has to pop his heal. Pridestalker incoming. PerkZ was able to relentlessly dash away. Heals traded on both sides, and the mid laners are getting a little hyphy. Yeah, you can see Trick is around, but Betsy able to dodge out on this one. And we spoke about how with the Zac you can gank for the Lucian as well, but Pridestalker, good focus to make sure he can keep Betsy alive. Both of them traded their heals in that middle lane, but no real kill threat on top of it.
Yeah. It is nice to see a lot of trading in the mid because there's so many matchups we've had in Europe where they don't necessarily want to go all in on each other. But speaking of going all in, it looks like Mithy heads over to Hjarnan right now, stopped up by the root, and in comes the Tristana. Zven wants to trade back, but he might have bitten off a little more than he could chew. The Ren stack pulled out of Mithy, staying alive, forcing the heal. Ooh. And let's see, it looks like G2 did not take as well to that fight as it looked like it was going to be.
As we said, in these prolonged trades can be a lot more difficult for G2's bottom lane to keep on going here. Now Trick getting pushed out a little from the jungle by Pridestalker. This is because Trick spent some time in the lanes, took a little damage, also has tried to now farm up even faster. Trick, you see, even with the time he spent, is a level advantage compared to Pridestalker, but Pridestalker is full health here with a smite, full mana. Well, Smite will be up soon. He would be able to contest if he wanted to, but the fact of the matter is he just wants the vision control on the bottom side. Betsy had recalled. He doesn't want to go aggressive over-eagerly.
Right, so he has a lot of that vision. You can see it panning around right now as that ward will expire soon. Still, they have eyes on what's going on in this G2 jungle at the moment. And ROCCAT, of course, their game plan, as we said, it's an early game. They want to make sure they can build up those leads. That's how they've had success against a lot of top teams. G2 needs to stop that from happening and needs to be able to show force.
And let's look at what else G2 needs. And this is what G2 needs for their standings implications. G2 can still finish first, but they need the stars to align. They need to beat ROCCAT in this series. They need NIP to beat Fnatic later today. And then G2 need to beat Fnatic. And that doesn't take into account the game differential. There are still a couple of outcomes that can change around here, but G2 need all of these things to happen if they want to get that semifinals bye.
That is a lot that they are going to need. But coming up with a win over ROCCAT, that's always going to feel good, especially because this is the team that last split gave them some trouble towards the end of it all. And you want to be as clean as you possibly can against a bottom team or against a team that's lower in the standings. You want to go into playoffs feeling like you've already done your best and, you know, maybe not show off a whole lot of picks, show off a whole lot of new strategies, but shoring up what has been in the past your weakness. And I'm wondering if that's maybe part of why they went back to the old G2 strategy in this pick and ban phase.
I think maybe just going back to what didn't work for them before, trying to rework on some of those difficulties, I think is a good thing here. I want to talk about a new strategy that's cropped up a little bit over the last few weeks. Has been annoying people, but we've got a Stoneborn Pact support on Wadid for that Morgana. You can see, typically not what you'd run, but the whole point of this, we've seen it on the Trundles, we've seen it on a couple of other supports. The whole idea of this is you're trying to rush Ardent Sensor. Now that's the bottom lane we're talking about. And we'll continue because, of course, Wadid is going to be able to give the crowd control over. We'll be able to allow Hjarnan to proc the Stoneborn Pact, therefore getting the Ardent Sensor. Massive amount of extra on hit plus everything else that comes with it. The extra damage, the heal. And that just makes Hjarnan so much more powerful in those earlier skirmishes than he really should be.
And we got to give Hjarnan some credit as well, because this split he's demonstrated consistently that he can output quite a lot of damage. This Kalista is one of those champions he can carry on. Of course, you know, a couple years back making his name for himself on the Sivir. And the synergy he has with Wadid is actually very impressive. So that is something that Zven and Mithy could have some trouble with if they don't watch their backs. We saw them trying to go all in and it wasn't traded well. And in comes Trick up to the top side, looking for Phaxi right now. Equalizer's thrown down. The bounce doesn't land onto him, but he gets blocked up for just a second, dashes twice, and even Mithy has joined the party up top. Flash, followed through, headbutted right back into Trick. Phaxi. That was close, but it's gonna be first blood.
First blood for G2. Trick has been all over the place. He's been in mid lane, top lane twice, and now Mithy comes up to the top side. Very difficult for Phaxi to play that out. He was waiting for Mithy to try and use their headbutt, but Mithy already knew as soon as Phaxi flashes, it's as easy as Q flashing on top of him. No way of Phaxi getting out of that. He tried to play it well. G2 played it just that a little bit better, and we're in for tower trade. Looks like it's going to go in favor of ROCCAT first of all, because G2 have had to back away. So overall, tower first blood will be worth, in ROCCAT's minds, that little bit more. But still, first blood goes on to G2, on to Expect, and I think that is the key for going later on in the game. That's where G2 will get the real value, is Expect ahead, accelerates his itemization, he'll be in team fights, he'll be stronger.
And we've seen, especially in the latter half of this split, that G2 can win through expect. They know that he can be a large contributor to this team when he's put on a carry, when he's put on something that can actually do a lot of damage. And you see some of his numbers here. He's involved in so many of the team's kills.
Not only involved in the team's kills, but just as a whole, Expect has been having a great split. You can see his damage rating as well, the amount of damage you would expect him to do compared to what he actually did. And this is where plus 12% there or thereabouts. Expect has been overperforming when it comes to those expectations. And really, I think that's a key thing, because so much of G2's history has been, oh, their top lane is to use an old storyline that we don't use, is their quote-unquote weak point. I don't think Expect has been a weak point for a very long time now for G2, and I actually think he's somebody that they've been able to play around. We saw at MSI, believe me. I think Expect has been a key component of keeping G2 steady over the last few months when it's looked like they've been dropping down a little bit, but they are back on form.
Absolutely. And the fact that we know he was so able to contribute to the team's calls at MSI, the fact that we know he's such a vocal person in the team as well as contributing in the form of damage is a really valuable thing. I think a lot of people really underrate when a team picks up a Korean, especially one that's not super well known. There's always a lot of question marks, like, is this guy going to be able to overcome the language barrier? How well can he contribute to the team? Expect has proven beyond a shadow of doubt that he is able to fit into this team extremely well over the years.
Absolutely has gone from strength to strength, but I want to turn our focus into this game once again. Look at the bottom lane AD carries. Zven, Hjarnan, their CS difference. Zven is starting to catch up because he had some time out on the side lane while Hjarnan wasn't farming, but look at the amount of farm Hjarnan will get in response to this big wave pushing in. It'll re-establish the difference. Now, we said we expect Hjarnan and Wadid to be doing well in the early game. We also expect Zven and Mithy not to be playing for the early game. That's one of the whole reasons why G2 moved towards the top side and pushed the tower down. ROCCAT now have to find a way to get Hjarnan into this game. I expect when that Ardent Sensor comes through for Wadid, plus the Blade of the Ruined King, ROCCAT will actually look to fight. Early on, they'll have the Renekton, they'll have the Taliyah, they'll try and find a PerkZ or a Zven caught out and go for a skirmish when G2 aren't ready to react.
And G2 have to know this too, right? Like, they've definitely been able to read this team well. Picking very safe laners. The Lucian, preferenced over the Orianna, giving up a little bit of that late game damage so they have a very safe laner that has some self-heal. The Tristana, much the same way with the rocket jump. So Zven feels like he can definitely push up a little deeper right now. Of course, Mithy is there to have his back. And yeah, it's good that you point out a lot of the CS differential and how much gold that should result in, because the gold is actually bang on even right now. ROCCAT got first tower blood. You got to wonder, where is that difference starting to come from now? You take a look across the board, and to be honest, it does look like it's up in the top lane. Expect outperforming Phaxi.
He got that first blood as well. That attributes to some of this gold lead. Now, I want to look at, again, what G2 have done since this tower first blood to actually slow ROCCAT down. We know ROCCAT will be looking for an engage, and look at the vision control through topside. Yes, it gives G2 the Rift Herald, but it also denies ROCCAT's ability to engage. The reason they're focused topside is because Hjarnan and Wadid will never be on the bottom side. There is no objective to take, and they know that Lucian, PerkZ in the middle lane, can clear the wave with his ultimate, with his early game presence. So what it means is G2 just say, okay, we want topside. We've now taken Rift Herald. There's nothing up here for ROCCAT to take. All they can do is try and make a player on top tower or on mid tower, and we can see them coming. We should be able to react to it in time.
And it's clean, right? If you're able to execute this, you can shut down what can be an early game powerhouse very easily. And you can see that, again, it's all itemization towards that end. Obviously, the champion choices affect this much. PerkZ goes in, Blade of the Ruined King popped. Ooh, looks for a couple double taps, forces out the heal. Coling comes in, PerkZ, he needs a few more shots, but he won't get it. Trick was waiting in the wings instead. They will just go for the Rift Herald. Betsy is very, very low here, and Pridestalker is coming in for some relief.
Yeah, ROCCAT are all coming down as well, so as good as G2 are trying to push this advantage by chunking down Betsy, ROCCAT actually were reacting to it in time. G2 will take a consolation prize of looking towards the dragon here. Typically what teams would do is make that play onto Betsy, try and kill him. If you don't kill him, you back away for maybe 20 seconds maximum, then go back in for the Rift Herald on the next wave. The difficulty is Trick was already there, Mithy was already roaming down, so G2 actually anticipated that they'd get more of that play, and now they're back to relying on this Lucian to just push the tower with a little assistance from Trick when it comes to that wave after wave after wave. But that is difficult. To weather through a Taliyah is almost not going to happen.
Yeah, but as long as Betsy is locked up here trying to hold onto the wave, it means he can't really make a whole lot of plays up in the top, down in the bottom. And it does seem like, unless ROCCAT start changing their game plan, they're going to be stymied this game.
For now, at least. We need to see one of those big skirmishes. We've only had the 1 kill so far.
Does that count as a big skirmish? There was like 3 people up top for G2.
That's why I said
Stealth Cow coming out of nowhere.
Nope, that's not a big skirmish.
All right.
If you put the CGI budget of a big film on that, that would be like one of those minor scenes where it's one guy, they go and zoom in on that. Not a full-fledged battle. We want to see the full-fledged battle between G2 and ROCCAT, but it won't come for a while.
Yeah, you need to wait. Sometimes you got to establish the build-up. Of course, there's always going to be like a little bit of downtime in between things, and that's when you get to chill. You kind of tune out for a while.
Filler episodes and filler points in films are like the worst. I hate that. That's why I don't watch anime. I actually don't watch anime.
Hold on, there is an exception to this, Stress.
Okay.
Sometimes the filler episodes are when the writers get to have fun, and if you're paying attention, you get to notice all little call-outs and references and things.
Okay, I can understand that.
Yeah, just gotta pay attention, see what happens. Some filler episodes suck, I agree. I don't know if ROCCAT versus G2 is going to be a filler episode at this point.
Well, for G2, they don't assume it's a filler episode right now. This is their quest to first place in the group.
It's a long quest, though, right? Like they're really going to be cheering for NIP if they win this series today, which is honestly a tall order. Even though we have seen some improvement on NIP, Fnatic is so good, man.
They are. Fnatic have been looking insanely good. G2 on the rise as well. But look, we can't count ROCCAT out themselves. They're getting to that point we were talking about. Ardent Sensor complete. Blade of the Ruined King complete. Now I want to see ROCCAT make that play.
Got 2 words for you. Black Cleaver. I want to see them sit behind Phaxi, have him charge down the line, but they're just settling into tower trades right now, and Zven on this Tristana is going to be able to demolish these a little bit faster as Trick was tanking through. Phaxi holding in the bottom side. Hjarnan and Wadid are going to be a little behind the 8 ball on this one, and I'm a little worried for ROCCAT. They seem to be slow on the uptake. I
mean, they're slow on the uptake in the sense that G2 recognize where ROCCAT are likely to play around next, and then just say, okay, well, let's make a play the other side of the map. Let's avoid them. This is the point at which they're strong. And now G2 are even looking for an inner tower. Now, Pridestalker is coming down to the bottom side. There is also a trade happening in the middle lane here.
Oh, PerkZ behind enemy lines. Getting a double tap on the Betsy. Trying to dodge, flashing forward, calling, and PerkZ gets the solo kill. Welcome back to Lane Kingdom.
There was only one challenger he hadn't taken down in Summer, and now Betsy falls. We're up to the top lane.
Oh my goodness, that Ren was nasty. Pulling the sticks out of Expect. Okay, we started to get some action here as Phaxi's going to get caught on. Zven gets the blowback, flashing forward, dash and slash, and Mithy coming in for the relief effort. The bully's getting bullied here. It is 3-on-1 once again. And Mithy gets himself a nice pair of croc skin boots.
What do you know? It was the time that the items just get completed and G2 say, okay, we'll make a play. ROCCAT try and react to it, but come out short all across the map. Solo kill in the middle lane in favor of G2. I believe they just got the kill in the bottom side. They didn't get a tower that stood behind them, but look, this solo kill out of PerkZ, he knows he can already win these trades against Betsy with this Blade of the Ruined King. And PerkZ flashes out of the minefield so he doesn't take the extra damage, so that he's not still under the tower to end up falling. Hjarnan, we saw him equalize a kill up on the top side. Expect has a lot of damage, but was not anticipating the damage that came out of the Rend. And then G2 just say, okay, well, we can kill Phaxi bottom side as well. It's all okay. We see Pridestalker heading towards the middle lane. They're trying to defend there. Ooh. And then Phaxi tries, but Mithy is there. Trick is there as well. Phaxi, you can't really disrespect his damage early on, but Zven's good at kiting back. He was just able to get clear and make sure he could keep himself alive.
Yeah, so now the ranks has been bullied down, taking 2 deaths in this game, and of course, Mithy was the one who actually ended up with a kill on that, but he'll be perfectly happy with it. Zven is already starting to do some serious damage, having completed the Infinity Edge. And it's starting to look a little rough for ROCCAT right now. 3-1 in kills in favor of G2 Esports. But once again, the gold is dead even in total.
But we, like, the point of ROCCAT's composition hasn't been felt yet.
Exactly.
Because
that's the problem.
You're right, they're even on gold, but everybody has seen the amount of additional gold that Ardent Sensor, yes, people measured it with Hjarnan, can give over to an AD carry. The massive amount of stats it gives. We need to see that fight come from ROCCAT, where they actually use the damage, use the Ardent Sensor procs that comes through, the massive amount of stats. He is so far ahead. 2 items to the one item, and we said that should happen in the early game. It should be that Zven is behind, but Hjarnan has been focused on farming. ROCCAT have given the farm to Hjarnan, and he is in a very strong position, so we cannot underestimate that despite the fact G2 have come out ahead in the last 2 skirmishes, the ROCCAT are just going to go quietly into the night now.
Yeah, and also ROCCAT are very, very fixated on giving Hjarnan the opportunity to carry. You can see some defensive items being picked up. Pridestalker completes a Knight's Vow, presumably to give him that extra bit of protection. So I want to see where they decide to send him. Obviously, in 30 seconds, Baron will be a reality. And normally we don't talk about Baron at a 20-minute mark, but when there's a Kalista on one team, that's another story. PerkZ looks to check over into Betsy, decides maybe he doesn't want to go that deep.
G2 have got the advantage when it comes to Baron, though, for now. The vision control around middle lane, around the top side, is in favor of G2, but what ROCCAT are doing here is seeing PerkZ in the top side, seeing Expect in the bottom side, ROCCAT say, okay, well, we'll just push onto the middle lane. Now, they go in.
Yeah, oh, trick. Okay, that was a little bit of bouncing around, and Mithy tries to get a bit of it as well as he flashes away from the rest of ROCCAT. They might have run out of steam here as Betsy finally takes down the last few shots and finishes off Trick here. Hjarnan getting fired down as Expect, who actually charbroils him down to nothing. Wadid, everybody melting through. Zven gets a hop, a skip, and a double kill to compensate. 20 minutes now, it's G2 turn their attention to the mid lane.
It's a reaction from G2. Trick took enough time out of ROCCAT's play. ROCCAT weren't able to push down the tower because they were focused on defending themselves. He dragged Wadid into the backline, which forced Wadid to flash out. Now, Expect maybe caught on the tower.
He's got to be a little careful here. Okay, trying to dodge out the quick volley. Mithy will tank up a few more of those. So for the time being, G2 won't be able to secure that next tower. But yeah, critical move and Trick. He jumps in. It looks like it was going to be bad, but all of a sudden, the rest of G2 just came out of the woodwork.
And that's what another thing we were talking about. This mid lane, Lucian can move from lane to lane quite quickly. Level 2 boots completed. You, of course, have the dash as well. So PerkZ moved over in enough time. Then came the teleport out of Expect and Phaxi, and Expect just roasted Hjarnan alive. Hjarnan didn't have his flash for that fight. Tried to heal his way out, and it just wasn't enough.
But this is the thing, too. Expect, once again, getting that gold. Let's see this fight and how it all unfolds one more time.
Trick jumps in. Pridestalker tries to block him, gets a good block off, but Wadid gets caught. At this point, Wadid can't actually get some of the procs off to get this Ardent Sensor working as well as he would like, and it means that Wadid's on the way out, backing out all of the time, and Hjarnan can't quite get the ult. Hang on, Rocket around the Baron.
Yeah, and they're going to be able to smite it down. It's actually rended as Hjarnan secures this one. A fast move to juke everybody, even the observers here. Zven gets one kill to start off things onto Wadid. G2 do not want to let ROCCAT escape with this Baron. Double knock up for Mithy right now. Pridestalker, everybody's caught inside the pit. He's going to be able to dash his way out. Zven following through. PerkZ, relentless pursuit right into the face of Betsy. Expect even following forward. A calling full channel comes out, but it's not going to connect exactly where he wanted. Betsy trying for some trickery, shoving, but PerkZ was able to get the dash off back. Unfortunately for Pridestalker, nowhere for him to go. He dashes back in and Zven blows him right back. Aha, a kill. And all of a sudden, ROCCAT, they might have got Baron, but it's only on 2 members.
A desperation play out of ROCCAT to get the Baron. They knew they could with the Kalista. You discussed it a couple of minutes back, Pyra. Past that 20-minute mark, you've got to respect that. Now, they get out of there with Baron on 2 members, lose 3, and that will slow G2 down. They lost the tower in the bottom lane as well, did G2, as that was Phaxi taking the tower during that exchange. But that was a quick response out of ROCCAT, knowing if we get there, we can actually beat G2 to the punch. They had spent so much time pushing on the mid lane that when they recall eventually, ROCCAT end up just rushing to that Baron. You can see how little vision now there is. There's only the 1 ward or so. Betsy tries to wall off the rest of G2, and it's successful enough to get them to the point where that Ren comes down to secure it. From here, the problem for ROCCAT is Wadid is trying to just take up as much time, protect Hjarnan for as long as possible, that they don't then see Expect coming through from the top side. We talked about how good Expect has been. The rest of the fight is Zven plus PerkZ. Expect boxes the rest of ROCCAT around the corner, delays them even further from recalling out, and then in come PerkZ, in comes Zven to clean up the rest of the fight.
Yeah, a bit of a messy one on the latter half of it, but at the very least, ROCCAT, they still have a few members with Baron buff. They're going to utilize it to try and finally knock down this mid tower. It was 3-3 in towers. It's now going to be a tower lead over to ROCCAT. Let's see if they can get another. As the blue trinket comes down to spot out Pridestalker, or a Trick, I should say. In goes Mithy, once again, Black Shield on, keeping Hjarnan safe for the time being, and in comes Trick. They're trying for the engage to cut them off, shoving the Zac back. Ooh, can't quite get it. The root. Betsy's going to be able to finish him off.
Yeah, ROCCAT taking good exchanges around this Baron buff, and of course, their side lane still has it. Now, Phaxi forced to flash out of the over the wall.
Dominus on, though. It's key ultimates burned. Expect already put down the equalizer, and that's going to open up just enough time for ROCCAT to finish off the tier 2. So they're already making use of this Baron buff. 1 minute remaining on the duration. Zven's got to be careful. He is the linchpin to this G2 fight. 5-0 on the Tristana. He does not want to add a death count here. PerkZ around the side. The wall is being built straight through the G2 base. It's probably not the most convenient place to put a wall.
Through another wall at that point.
It does go through walls, though.
Well, it's ROCCAT trying to just get out of this situation. You can see Phaxi manages to get safety. ROCCAT have just done a significant amount of damage, considering G2 have a 5-0 Tristana just cleaned up after the majority of a Baron fight. The fact that it was still on Phaxi and Betsy was enough to push through 2 lanes at a time, and that allows ROCCAT to kind of play around this skirmish. Trick gets caught out, ends up dying, used his ultimate as well, doesn't have flash still, and that means ROCCAT could look to pick up another fight if they can. That's how they have to win this game. ROCCAT have to win this game now through getting another clean fight against G2 and being able to deal damage off that side lane. Problem is, look how quickly Phaxi ends up shredded down.
Yeah, I feel like his role in this game is probably going to be meat shield, to be honest, because it seems like all the team is playing around Hjarnan. Betsy, of course, is contributing, but it is more of a utility role, right? All the protection seems to be put on Hjarnan, the Black Shield, the Knight's Vow, all that stuff, there to keep him alive, and that was a key part of them winning that fight.
A massive part of them winning the fight. Now for G2, however, they're making a play on the bottom side because they know ROCCAT can't respond in time themselves, so they get a tower out of this, trying to even the gold back up. And G2 know that they can fight effectively when they have everything available. Once you got the flashes, once you got the ultimates up, which they are close to, ROCCAT shouldn't be quite as difficult to fight against.
Let's throw the Morgana in. Wadid, though, he's getting knocked up right now, and there is Expect going golden for
Zven.
just a second. Zven, he might get caught. No, he's got the pullback. Jumping forward, shut down by Hjarnan. A double kill for the Kalista, and they will clean house under the G2 turrets. This is the ROCCAT team fight.
ROCCAT able to take the 3 versus 3 in the top side. Zven jumped into the fight, I think, then used both summoners, couldn't get himself out alive. Wasn't anticipating quite that much damage coming out of ROCCAT. We said that Zven needs to be on the backline behind this Alistar, behind the rest of the team. Well, PerkZ and Trick were still committing on the bottom side of the map to that tower play. They were trying to kill Betsy. They didn't manage to get the kill from that, and ROCCAT ended up taking over the lead. I mean, so let's watch Zven in this fight. He's desperately trying to get the damage down because he knows if they kill Hjarnan, the rest of ROCCAT end up dying. So he jumps in, tries to get the damage down, but has to flash immediately out. Tries to jump in, and Hjarnan in midair rends Zven down. That was so unbelievably close. And you can see just how much Hjarnan is getting from this combination with Wadid and Pridestalker. They were so low at so many points in that fight that you can absolutely see why G2 wanted to take that. Zven thought he had that in the bag, and Hjarnan was able to just rend him out of the fight and take complete control.
That man you just saw on your screen, Grabs, he tweeted at the beginning of the day that even though it didn't matter for ROCCAT, this game was still going to be an important one. They still wanted to make a statement. They still wanted to play full try hard. I don't know if that's the actual phrase, but they definitely were coming into this one just as serious as if playoffs were still on the line, and they are taking it to G2 eSports right now.
And it's happening again, although the results haven't always gone in ROCCAT's favor. Even last week's Fnatic series was a back and forth close series. ROCCAT, G2, Fnatic, like all of these teams when they're playing up against ROCCAT, seem to struggle because ROCCAT come with a better early game than we normally see out of them. Hjarnan is having a magnificent game once again. From the laning phase through to the early skirmishes, like ROCCAT have shown up exactly as we don't expect them to. But
I feel like we should at this point.
How does that work?
I don't know. You know, the thing is, at the very beginning, G2 were giving Phaxi a really hard time. And it seemed like this Renekton just wasn't going to work the way they wanted it to.
Right.
But they didn't need the Renekton to be good because Hjarnan is huge. Pridestalker, we thought that he would maybe go the carry route that he's shown some success on and evolution on, but he's gone for a standard tank, the Gragas.
Right.
It's working fine. ROCCAT are making this playstyle work.
But that's exactly what we said coming out of Champion Select. There's some essence of disengage with kiting around here for Hjarnan. If they can provide safety, if Wadid and Pridestalker can provide safety for Hjarnan, then for the majority of this game, Hjarnan's damage is going to be almost uncontestable. Almost. Zven is in a fantastic position at 5-1. Here comes TP.
Yeah, but Trick is already almost down to 0 right now. Oh boy, Redemption. I don't know if you will be redeemed. PerkZ does finish off Phaxi, but Hjarnan does the same thing to expect. Trick leading incredibly low as Hjarnan looks to throw in the Morgana. Instead, they find Mithy. Point blank, dark binding around the backside is PerkZ, but it's Pridestalker tanking up the full channel of the calling. In comes Betsy, throws a couple of rocks, but now it looks like G2 have the damage. Pridestalker turns back in again. They find Zven to lead him out of the fight, and that could be the difference maker. PerkZ is isolated. Mithy says, sorry, bro, I am out of here, and ROCCAT win a huge fight.
Pridestalker and Wadid play bodyguard for Hjarnan, one on either side, and as soon as a threat steps up from G2, ROCCAT turn around and just deal with it instantly. They find Zven again in a fight, and for only the second time they kill him, but that might be enough to end the game.
Death timer's still ticking right now, 20 seconds on that Tristana, and ROCCAT show no signs of stopping. Will actually quit while they're ahead, and there is a Baron. Nice and available, just shy of 30 minutes here, and it's been a bloody game with 11 to 11 in kills. ROCCAT getting the better of them.
Well, it was 1-0 for 14 minutes in this game, and then ROCCAT get to the point, they say, okay, play the Rune King, we got the first item, we got the Ardent Sensor, we got the Gragas past level 6, that's all we really needed. Start fighting. Get Hjarnan into the fight. They got the Baron play, which was great the first time, and now the second Baron. Doesn't even matter that it was Wadid that ended up getting that at this point, but look, ROCCAT, this fight, once again, was Trick starting the engage with this Zac. You can see why they want to fight. And Phaxi even looked out of it, but here's all the damage off screen for G2. They are so far away from Hjarnan, and then it turns into the bodyguard, the Secret Service Wadid at this point, because look, Pridestalker and Wadid just separating G2 away from them, pushing PerkZ back away. Suddenly, Hjarnan realizes without the binding, Pridestalker is already casting Body Slam as the binding is flying because they're convinced it's going to hit Zven. It locks, the crowd control hits him, Zven has no chance to escape. You can see he tries everything, but ROCCAT are on the verge of winning in game one.
Looks like it's happening again. We saw it all the way back in Spring Split, and ROCCAT, maybe they want some revenge for losing to the G2 sub-squad. Now they're up against the real thing. 10 weeks later, at 31 minutes, on the lead, marching in the front door. G2 have just not been able to find these fights. Zven, very critical, deleted twice in midair, it looked like. Expect. They gave him tools to carry early on, but also the ROCCAT target selection. They just found them exactly where they needed to. And this is so incredible to see ROCCAT fighting this way, this well.
The Thresh was banned, Rakan was banned. We saw some of these big supports taken away from Wadid. He moves over to the Morgana. Different playstyle. Yes, okay, you can get thrown in by the Fate's Call, but it's about a little bit longer range, more protective, using the Black Shield, and the bindings have been fantastic. Now, Trick is looking for one last team fight, but Hjarnan has the Guardian Angel completed already. The win condition is just protect Hjarnan. Phaxi has the Guardian Angel as well. He can play that frontline role in these team fights, and ROCCAT are just going to carefully, cautiously walk this in. As I say that, Pridestalker dashes in.
All right, well, there's the collapse right now. Full calling comes out from PerkZ. It looks like Zven's going to start the fight off with a kill onto Betsy. They get Pridestalker right into the back, and they weren't going to be able to finish him down. However, Hjarnan is staying alive, and he takes out Mithy, Trick, Expect, PerkZ, Zven, all running for their lives as the first inhibitor of the game is going to fall down. Even though ROCCAT lost 2 for 1, looks like they were the ones coming out ahead here. A lot of key ultimates already down. Zven will have his Buster Shot up and available. PerkZ dodges out the binding. Ooh. Zven hopping forward. He's got a flash. Will he use it? The answer is no.
No real reason to flash forward there because it leaves him committed as Hjarnan would have been able to get in position to defend. A little sloppy out of ROCCAT in the sense that they go aggressive when they perhaps don't need to. They had the Baron buff. They were waiting for the next wave of minions to come through to the middle lane, and they end up pushing the inhibitor. You can see Zven and PerkZ still have a significant amount of damage in this game. You cannot disrespect them, and Trick goes in, tries to get the fight started, and is able to do enough. It's a very difficult fight to get to work for G2. They need the engage, otherwise ROCCAT will just push him with the Baron buff, but they also need to somehow find a Kalista that has the GA, has a Morgana, a Gragas, a frontline with the Renekton. Like, even Betsy, when you look at the seismic shove, the minefield is doing a significant amount of damage and defensive work for Hjarnan.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter how many metas and years you go through in League of Legends. Protect the AD carry tends to work a lot of the time if you're able to execute it. And right now, ROCCAT are definitely showing that off. Now, Zven, critically, he stayed alive in that last fight, and I think that was a big difference maker as well. So they are very important players in this game right now. Expect is also pretty important, but I haven't seen his impact since the mid game, in all honesty. I feel like he's not been in the right position. more often than not.
Expect has been able to get a couple of equalizers through, has done good damage in the team fights as well. It's difficult, though, when you're trying to find the likes of a Kalista in the backline, where you're trying to hop through, and you've got to keep them at arm's range, though, because that Kalista will shred right through you at the same time. I think the difficult thing for G2 is their front line, as strong as it has just always been a little behind the damage of ROCCAT, but that time is starting to run out. Hjarnan is going really not to be too much more effective. He can sell boots, maybe for another item, maybe we'll see a Phantom Dancer come through. Deficio with his 2 cents. Yeah, that's the win condition at that point. What he's saying is he wants to see Mithy build the Ardent Sensor, just get as much as he can. It is funny how much Ardent Sensor influences games. You can speak to pros, not even just bot lane pros. You can speak to mid lane pros like Paravival about how frustrating this item is because of just how much it gives over to an AD carry in terms of damage, survivability, all of these things. And we've seen Hjarnan be safe time after time because Wadid has been able to get that Ardent Sensor in the fights, and Hjarnan just ends up not dying.
Which is a pretty critical thing if you want to be able to win these fights. So for G2, they need to overcome that if they want to stay alive here. Otherwise, they are looking at definitely being locked out of that first spot. Let's see, it's a duel. Expect actually not taking that one very well right now. It's Phaxi who comes up ahead, play the Rune King, active popped. He's getting fairly tanky. He had a Guardian Angel from before. He also has the Bramble Vest, so he's dishing back a few more shots.
Both flashed, and that Bramble Vest comes out because you look at the rest of the damage threats. You've got a Lucian, you've got a Tristana. Those are the ones that are going to start taking over, specifically that Tristana later on in the game. And with a Last Whisper completed, Zven is very close to the point where he just has to sit behind his front line. Look at how much damage he just did to Betsy. But Pridestalker wants to go in.
All right, he's got Goo for just a second. Here comes the redemption here. Pridestalker and Betsy need to get healthy. It looks like they'll be able to do it, and there's a ceasefire for the time being. Or is there? Pridestalker turns on to PerkZ. Wadid is going to get the finishing kill. A hop for Zven, but he's dark bound for just a moment now. Phaxi, meanwhile, was chipping away at the tower up top. There's some minions here. Expect is trying to burn them all to a crisp. But meanwhile, the rest of the G2 base is in shambles.
Of course, that binding locks Zven as he reaches the destination, since he'd already started jumping at that point, and that meant that ROCCAT weren't able to capitalize fully, but again, Zven got found by a binding. He was safe on this time. It was PerkZ that ended up getting taken down by Pridestalker, and G2, they were trying this double AD carry style. ROCCAT closing in for the win.
Trying to take this one in game number 1. Trick decides to go bouncing, but Phaxi says, nah, I don't want to. Zven is going to be able to pick up one crucial kill here onto Betsy, and that will stop the ROCCAT push for now.
But the binding, again, buys ROCCAT the time to get out of the base. Mithy cannot afford to chase on his own, but they're trying to slow down ROCCAT's recalls here. Look, Baron is just about to respawn as we pan up towards it. Remember, Kalista, this will be Baron number 3, 37 minutes on this game. ROCCAT are looking for a 3rd Baron. ROCCAT are looking to get enough here to close game 1 against G2 and put one nail in the coffin of G2's hopes of getting first.
Trick, he's going to try to say something about that as he hops in. It looks like the fight's already been turned. They look for Mithy. Expect those goals. They knock Zven in! And can they take him down? Hjarnan says, yes, we can. PerkZ around the side, a triple kill just like that for the Kalista, and it's gonna be the Quadra!
Only one remains, it's PerkZ. They don't know where he is, but PerkZ shows himself.
Oh no, flash and dash, and you know, they don't even need the Penta. ROCCAT say, we are going to win this game.
Yeah, ROCCAT just want to win the game. They don't care about the Penta. Hjarnan's like, okay, let's just get to game 2. Let's do this again. Let's beat G2. And again, Pyra, we're in week 10, the last week of the split, and ROCCAT, they're putting themselves 1-0 up against G2.
Oh, it's 38 minutes of redemption comes in, and it feels like redemption for ROCCAT. They may not be going to playoffs right now, but they are certainly starting to put a damper on G2's dreams. And wouldn't you think it looked a little dire this week, but ROCCAT can prove the Kingslayers are alive and well.
1-0 on the series for ROCCAT. And it was a good way to come back into the game. Now, they had the early game advantage through the bottom side. The Ardent Sensor comes out. They lose one skirmish in the middle lane from overcommitting themselves, but go, okay, we've got Kalista. What do we do with Kalista? Go to Baron as soon as we can. Early Baron rush pays off for them. They get that gold influx from the bottom lane tower that goes down, and then they just back-to-back fight, knowing all they've got to do is protect Hjarnan, and he will win the game for them, and they do it beautifully.
Absolutely. Insanely solid execution, and ROCCAT once again playing up to the level of their opponents. These guys always give us a show, but sometimes it boggles the mind that they can lose to teams at the bottom of the standings, and then they can put on a performance like that against the likes of G2 eSports.
The same team gives NIP their only series win so far, and yet beats Fnatic, the game up on
You never know what
G2.
you're getting with ROCCAT. I feel like they are one of the most unpredictable teams in the European LCS.
Which is why when the analysts say, hey, is the upset on the cards? and people say no, you go, okay, that actually makes sense. This matchup should be G2 favored. But again, every time you underestimate ROCCAT, they seem to just find that playstyle in the early game that works for them. And they were running a difficult conversation.
It was a difficult conversation.
It is a difficult conversation. They're running a difficult composition. You got to play disengage. You got to try and protect one member. That's tough to do against a Zac, who basically wins every game he's been let through, and against an Alistar who engages fights so very well. Kudos to ROCCAT. That was a great performance.
Yeah, and especially bodyguards, Pridestalker and Wadid. Let's see if they can do it again. ROCCAT took down G2 in game number 1, so let's check in with Analyst Desk to break it all down.
Thank you very much, Pyra. I do want to break down exactly how ROCCAT did it, because this wasn't a cheese victory or anything. This was very well played. Before we get to that, though, I asked Venius if the upset was on the cards. A very resounding no, and I don't think you were wrong in that prediction. But damn, you were wrong.
I was wrong. It seems that Jaime Lannister has been reborn in the form of ROCCAT. The Kingslayers remain true to their title as they get a pretty convincing win against G2.
Yeah, before we get to our replays, I want to update you guys on the race for first place in Group A. Now, we said beforehand, G2 has to win versus ROCCAT to keep that dream alive. However, even with dropping this single game, G2 is in dire straits, because this now means that Fnatic has to lose 0-2 to NIP, and on Saturday, G2 have to beat Fnatic 2-0 in order to get that first place. In other words, that is not good for G2. But with that, I do want to focus on the game and on what ROCCAT did correctly in this game, because there was a lot of that.
Well, we have to start by looking a little bit at the early game, because it didn't go amazingly well for ROCCAT. They ended up losing first blood. Betsy ended up dying in a 1v1 in mid. There are a lot of early kills that were going heavily in the favor of G2, along with a lot of early fights. And when you looked at how the game was developing, especially with the Zac comp, Tristana Rumble, things looked dire. But the one shining light was this Kalista down in the bottom lane for Hjarnan. This Kalista was holding his own in the laning phase. They were able to trade fairly evenly, and as the game progressed, he was getting stronger and stronger, eventually having a massive impact on the game.
The spotlight this weekend has been on Reckless versus Zven on Saturday, but turns out that Hjarnan versus Zven is also a hype matchup. Let's take a look at our first replay, because this is one in which Trick engages. He does die off the back of it, but still looking pretty good for G2, seeing that they get a couple of kills on Zven.
So this is one of the initial mid lane fights that we were talking about, where things looking a little dire for ROCCAT, because while the initial fight looks good, things very quickly fall apart, because G2, they get a fantastic flank off with a really good TP from Expect with a follow-up from PerkZ. The resets from Sven looking good, and even though a Baron goes in the favor of ROCCAT, G2 still come out with a convincing team fight win. So you're thinking now, G2, they're still looking poised, they're still looking good enough to be able to win this, but this Baron has a lot of impact later on.
Well, that was going to be my question, even though they are on the back foot, knowing that the Kalista is pretty farmed already, which is also in part why they can take that Baron so early. The decision-making of going for that, making sure that G2 is not going to be able to take it, and the fact that ROCCAT will be able to dictate the pace a bit more of the game, how much did that, well, come into their victory later on in the game?
Oh, it certainly did, because once you have that Baron, what it means is, as you rightly said, you now control the tempo. And one of the big things is, for when you're having, when you play with a Lucian, his wave clear is surprisingly low when he doesn't have his ultimate up. And when you're playing against a Morgana and a Gragas, there's a huge amount of pick potential that you always have to respect. So we saw a lot of towers going down in favor of ROCCAT, which slowly gave them a bit of a gold advantage, making them more confident coming into these later fights. And that's what we really want to highlight, some of the strengths that Hjarnan demonstrated, because he had a massive teamfight victory over in the top lane, which translated into a massive teamfight victory going in the favor of the mid lane for the side of ROCCAT. So as we bring it up, you can see that the goal of ROCCAT here is to start off the Baron, but Trick and Expect coming from the flank without really knowing what the rest of their team was doing. And that's because the rest of their team were dealing with a Phaxi TP in from the side lane. So you're thinking, okay, this is still fairly okay. Both top laners full, but this is where we're seeing a breakdown in communication from G2. They don't fully know how to commit onto this fight. And Hjarnan, his positioning and his strength at this point in the game is too good for you to just disrespect it, along with a great initiation from Pridestalker, and you're just seeing fantastic team fighting coming out from ROCCAT.
That you do, and I can only imagine the oh, Hjarnan was looking at his own replay and said, yes, that was me, and it was great. And ROCCAT is not playing for anything. To repeat it again, they are in a safe spot. They are about to go on vacation. They have a couple of games left to play here, so maybe that works in favor for them. You know, they noticed it's going well. We have a lot of kills on Hjarnan. Our engages are going good. We have absolutely nothing to lose, so let's just force those fights time and time again.
It's one of those shifts in mentality that you can have, right? When you know you don't have to play your best, like this game doesn't matter, you just want to play against G2. There's some value you can get from it on an individual level, maybe as a team level. But it seems like they didn't have any restrictions on themselves. They were just like, let's do this, let's do that, let's do this. And they just play League of Legends, I think, without thinking too much about it. And that seemed to benefit them a lot more. Pridestalker made a lot of really good initiations, which the rest of the team followed up on. Wadid with a really good mechanical outplay. He had really good dark bindings and he had really good shields at just the right time to set up his team for success. And overall, we just saw a lot of good players stepping up for ROCCAT, resulting in a great team performance.
That we did. We were very positive on the side of ROCCAT because they did win. But is there anything we can point out at the side of G2 of someone who dropped the ball? Not wanting to point it out, but Zach has only lost now 3 games the entire split when he was able to be picked. He's usually not a pick that we associate with not being able to put a lot of pressure on the game, right? Not that I want to call that out, but there definitely wasn't too much going in their favor across the map early.
I completely agree with you. I think that Zach pick really was a big question mark, because something that you and I were saying in the game was, ooh, Trigger's died a lot this game. And he was dying a lot. He was getting caught out many times. He was engaging without proper follow-up from his team. And when I saw the composition coming together, I was a little bit concerned when they had the Rumble and a Lucian, because it's not the easiest follow-up on top of a Zach engage. And we saw multiple times how that came to be, because the Zach went in, he'd get bursted, and then the rest of the team would come, resulting in a teamfight loss for G2.
So for a team that's going to go up against Fnatic in an important match, we want to see more. Quick riddle before we go. In that deciding Game 3, which you casted of G2 versus ROCCAT in Week 10 of the Spring Split, there was only one champion player combo that was identical in this game as to that game. Which was it?
Was it Renekton Gragas?
Champion player combo.
Oh, champion player combo. Ooh.
Hint, it was very impactful in both games.
It was very impactful in both games. By any chance, was it Kalista?
It was Hjarnan, and it was Kalista indeed. We'll see if he gets his hands on that again. G2 in dire straits, and ROCCAT are looking to do it again and stop G2's winning streak. Game 2 is coming up after the break. Don't miss it.
Hjarnan.
Slayers, they might have fallen off the horse this split, but they just might be able to play Kingmaker. Even Mithy has joined the party up top. Flash followed through, headbutted right back into Trigger. That was close, but it's gonna be first blood.
Here.
Oh, Perks behind enemy lines, getting a double tap on defense, trying to dodge, flashing forward, calling, and Perks gets the solo kill. Welcome back to Lane Kingdom.
Yeah, by the way. Yeah, we can win 2v2 now. Yeah. There's
A double kill for the Kalista, and they will clean house under the G2 turrets. This is the ROCCAT team fight. Looks like G2 have the damage. Pridestalker turns back in again. They find Zven to lead him out of the fight, and that could be the difference right now, but they are certainly starting to put a damper on G2's dreams. And wouldn't you think it looked a little dire this week, but ROCCAT can prove the Kingslayers are alive and